Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf coming up. Best way to play it and all the Breeders' Cup action, all the actions through Naira Bets. If you're not a member, head on over to nairabets.com. Use the promo code CUP25 for that free $25 Breeders' Cup play as well as a $200 deposit match. Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. It lacks, I think, the star power we've seen in other years. Maybe it's because Chad Brown wasn't as strong. He does have two players, both long shots in here. We'll see how good the Europeans are in this race. It's a wide open race. And we'll start by talking about a European Love who opted to run in here, and she is the narrow second choice in the morning line. We'll see if she's favored. She opted to run here instead of the Breeders' Cup Turf. I think a wise choice by her trainer, Aidan O'Brien. My problem is that Aidan O'Brien is just 3 for 57 in Breeders' Cup races over the last 5 years, and Love just doesn't seem to be quite as good as she was when earlier in the season she won in her debut as a 4-year-old the prestigious Prince of Wales at Ascot. She held off Odaria, who's coming back in here, and of course Odaria won this race last year at Keeneland. Love has run okay in subsequent starts, but she was no match when third behind some very good horses in the King George. She did not run particularly well when third in the Juddmonte behind Mishriff, who beat her in the prior race. And then she came back last time and lost by a nose at 6-5 in a race she should have won. Now, listen, she ran against some pretty good horses, and I think she is, in some ways, the horse to beat in this race. But Aidan O'Brien's record's not that good. She's not coming into this race off in top form, and I think it makes her very, very vulnerable. The U.S. horse, who's the morning line favorite, is Warlike Goddess, and she easily disposed of my sister Nat, the half to my sister Charlie, who came back and won her next start. This was the Grade 1 Flower Bowl we ran at Saratoga. Warlike Goddess has been incredibly visually impressive. There's no doubt about it. She's patiently ridden by Julien Leparoux, and when he asks her to produce that run, she just swallows up the competition, and she's just too good for the likes of my sister Nat and other horses. The question is she really good, or is she just beating up on weak horses? I guess it's somewhere in the middle, and maybe that's a bad position to take. I think she's okay, but I don't think the competition has been particularly strong in these races, and I think it's making her look better than she is. She's not running big figures, and I just think there's probably some more Europeans that are lurking in this race that are just better than she is. I don't know, though, that one of those is last year's winner, Odaria, who drew on the outside in post 12, which was her no favor, or Rougier. Rougier was able to beat Odaria last time out when she won the prestigious Prix de l'Opera at Longchamp, and this is run on the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe card. Maybe Odaria, I don't think she was keen. You can see how her rider is very patiently riding her. She's making the lead right now in those yellow silks, and she just kind of gets run down, and I just don't think she's coming to this race with the same kind of verve that she came into the Breeders' Cup last year, and the post did her no favors as she really just had nothing late. Now, Rougier gets that win, a win that's eluded her in 4 straight races, which have been blanket finishes. Blanket finishes are the key, though. I don't think these European, the French 3-year-olds were that good this year. Seeing how some of these horses have run, a couple of them coming over here, I just don't know if they're necessarily as good as some of the horses we're used to coming out of those races. Now, maybe that's good enough in this year's running of the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, but I'm not a big fan of Rougier, and I'm going to stay away from these horses in this race. What about Going to Vegas, who beat Dog Tag last time out when she was able to win the prep for this race at Santa Anita, the Rodeo Drive, and she's got those 2 wins at Del Mar, and what she has is speed. And she's probably pretty loose in this race. So I can understand why there's people out there that are saying the same stuff I've been saying to you, which is, how strong is this field overall? And maybe she just gets out in the front end, and maybe she doesn't get the respect that she deserves, and she ends up wiring this field. I don't think it's impossible. She's going to beat me when she does it, but I'm hedging my bets all on the way. And I think one of the keys to this race is it's just not that tough a race. What about the Japanese horse, Love's Only You? She's kept some pretty good company in her races, and we'll take a look at her win 2 back in the Queen Elizabeth over at Châtine, where she got a solid time form rating. Now, I don't like the fact that after that race, she's off for 4 months. She comes back at 4 to 5, and she doesn't get it done with a subpar effort. And now she's coming back 2.5 months later in this race. They're really spotting her races, but she probably is being pointed for this race. Her best efforts make her a player, and I don't want to discount her chances. I think her chances are actually fairly good in this race. She's a horse that I could use, especially if you're not thrilled overall with a lot of the Europeans and you're not thrilled with the U.S.-based horses. And I'm so not thrilled with those horses that I'm taking a real shot in here with the number 3, Acanella. I will readily admit to you that Acanella may not be good enough. But one of the things we've had some success with in Breeders' Cup turf races and Europeans is under-the-radar Europeans that are coming into this race, hopefully moving forward, and their connections are taking a bit of a chance with a horse who has some lesser qualifications, and that would be the case with Acanella. Juddmonte doesn't ship over horses to the Breeders' Cup races with form like this. This is really not something we've seen from them, and that really raised my curiosity. This horse improved dramatically 2 back when winning the Snow Ferry Stakes at the Curragh. Enough so, after that Group 3 win, they tried her in the Group 1 race, the Matron, on Irish Champions Day at Leopardstown. She got absolutely buried in the stretch and had nowhere to run throughout the running of that race. And once the race was over and things opened up, she galloped out right to the leaders. And I do think there's a chance that she was going to be forward. Now, I know Mother Earth had one who had trouble in that race that was more noted. But she was prevented from doing any running. And clearly, I'd have to think that Juddmonte feels like she might have been effective in that race. 1 3/8. Well, she's never gone beyond the 1 1/8. Her dam is a half to Flintshire, who wanted to go a long, long way and was a very, very terrific horse for Juddmonte. Now, her dam has Oasis Dream, who's not quite as effective going longer with his horses as the sire of Flintshire. But I do think there's enough to say, with this horse taking a shot, her trouble in her last race, I'm not thrilled with anybody. I'm taking a shot with the long shot Acanella in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. I think it's a wide open race. The number 3 Acanella, my top choice over the 6 Love, the 8 Loves Only You, and the U.S. horse Warlike Goddess. She's my 4th choice. Won't be surprised when she runs well, but I think she may find the Europeans a little bit too tough to handle in an interesting running of the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. Best way to play it is to play it through NyraBets. Head on over to NyraBets.com. Use the promo code CUP25. Free $25 Breeders' Cup play as well as a $200 deposit match.